In this course, we deal with dynamic risk rather than static. And let me try to explain what I mean. The traditional analysis of risk, let's say for a country, you would regress the country return on a series of world factors, world risk factors, and get a set of betas. Those betas represent the risk exposure or risk sensitivity. Now, those are usually assumed to be constant through time. But just a cursory knowledge of what happens in international investment would suggest that risk evolves through time. So to assume that risk is constant is potentially a dangerous assumption. So what we build in this course are dynamic models. Models that allow the betas to shift through time. And indeed, what we try to do is to incorporate local information, stuff that is happening within that economy, to allow that information to influence the behavior of the risk function. So you can think, for example, of some country that's got some beta against a world inflation rate. But that beta is likely a function of the monetary policy within that particular country. So what we do, instead of just estimating the simple beta, we're going to actually specify a function for the beta, and to allow that beta to be influenced by fundamental economic events within each country. In the end, what we get is a function, which we'll call the risk function. And it delivers a dynamic measure of risk that changes through time as the economic environment within the country changes. And this is exactly what we're going to use in terms of our risk control methodology. We will capture a dynamic version of the risk exposures, and we will see that the portfolios that we choose for our asset allocation will have a changing risk exposure through time. It's one thing to set your investment strategy, to assign specific weights to various asset classes and countries. But there's another thing to realize what the risk exposure actually is. A simple version of the CAPM, we would just say, well, what's the variance of the portfolio? Well, we're not going to do the simple version of the CAPM. I want to know what my portfolio exposure is to inflation. I want to know what my portfolio exposure is to changes in real activity. I want to go through the whole list of risk factors and know exactly what I'm investing in. This is critical for kind of a comprehensive portfolio strategy. We have to mix asset allocation with identification and control of the risk exposure of that portfolio.